Let me guess, you've been training your calves for months, maybe even years, yet they still don't grow. If that sounds like you, stay with me till the end because I'm going to show you the biggest mistakes that are holding your calves back and give you a simple, proven plan to finally make them grow. Before we talk about what you're doing wrong, you first need to understand why calves are one of the hardest muscles in the body to grow. Unlike your chest, back, or biceps, your calves are working almost every minute you're on your feet, every step you take, every flight of stairs you climb, and every time you stand up. They're already doing their job. That means they've become amazingly efficient at handling the kind of effort most people throw at them in the gym. On top of that, your calves aren't just one muscle. They're mainly made up of two muscles, the gastrocnemius, which gives your calves their visible shape, and the soleus, which lies underneath and adds overall size. Each plays a different role and responds best to slightly different training. Treat them like every other muscle in your body, and you're already putting yourself at a disadvantage. But don't worry, once you understand how your calves actually work, growing them becomes much more straightforward, and that's exactly where most people go wrong. Now ask yourself this, when you're training your calves, are you actually pushing them to their limit, or are you just going through the motions? Most people load up the calf raise machine, bounce through a few quick reps, feel the burn, and call it a day. But here's the problem, your calves don't care about the burn, they care about being challenged. Think about it, your calves carry your body weight with every step you take, all day, every day, walking, climbing stairs, standing in line. They've already adapted to that level of work. So if your workout feels just as easy as everything they already do, why would they grow? To force your calves to grow, you have to give them a reason. That means using enough weight to make the last few reps genuinely difficult, controlling every rep instead of rushing through it, and pushing close to failure instead of stopping the moment it starts to get uncomfortable. If your calves finish a set feeling like they could easily do another 10 reps, you didn't train them, you just exercised them. But even if you're training hard enough, there's another mistake that can completely erase your progress, and it's one that almost everyone makes without realizing it. Even if you're training hard, there's another mistake that can make all that effort go to waste, and it's something I see in almost every gym. Watch someone doing calf raises, and chances are you'll see them bouncing up and down with short, quick reps. It feels harder because they're moving fast, but in reality, they're making the exercise less effective. Your calves grow best when they're challenged through their full range of motion, especially in the stretched position at the bottom of the movement. If you only move halfway up and halfway down, you're cutting out one of the most important parts of the exercise. It's like trying to build your biceps by curling the weight only halfway. You simply won't get the same results. Instead, lower your heels as far as you comfortably can to get a deep stretch, pause for a brief moment, then push all the way up until your calves are fully contracted. Control the movement the entire time. No bouncing, no using momentum, and no rushing through the reps. You'll probably have to use less weight at first, but don't let your ego get in the way. Your goal isn't to move the most weight, it's to make your calves do the most work. And believe it or not, even perfect reps won't give you bigger calves if you're making the next mistake. Let's talk about how often you train your calves, because this is where a lot of people get it wrong. Some people throw in a few sets at the end of leg day once a week and wonder why nothing changes. Others train their calves every single day, thinking that because they're used so much, they never need to recover. The truth is, both approaches can hold you back. Your calves may recover faster than larger muscle groups, but they're still muscles. They don't grow while you're training them, they grow while they're recovering from a challenging workout. If you never train them hard enough, there's no reason for them to adapt. But if you train them hard every single day without giving them time to recover, you're constantly interrupting the very process that makes them grow. The goal isn't to train your calves as often as possible, it's to train them as often as they can recover and come back stronger. For most people, that means training them 2 to 3 times per week with enough intensity to challenge them, while giving them time to recover before hitting them hard again. Focus on making each workout count instead of simply adding more workouts. But even if your training frequency is spot on, there's one more mistake that can keep your calves from reaching their full potential. Here's a mistake that could explain why your calves still look small, even if you're training them hard, using a full range of motion and training them multiple times a week. You might simply be ignoring half of what makes up your calves. Your calves are mainly made up of 2 muscles, the gastrocnemius, which is the large, visible muscle that gives your calves their shape, and the soleus, which sits underneath it and adds a lot of the overall size and thickness of your lower leg. The problem is, many people train almost exclusively with standing calf raises and assume they're hitting everything equally. They're not. When your knee is straight, like in a standing calf raise, you can train the gastrocnemius effectively, but when your knee is bent, like in a seated calf raise, the gastrocnemius becomes less involved, allowing the soleus to do more of the work. That means if you only do one type of calf raise, you're leaving a significant part of your calf development behind. So if you want your calves to look bigger and more complete, you need to train both. Use standing variations to target the gastrocnemius and seated variations to give the soleus the attention it deserves. It's not about finding one super calf exercise, it's about giving both muscles a reason to grow. But now that you know the 4 biggest mistakes that could be holding your calves back, there's one final question. What should your actual calf workout look like? Let's put everything we've covered together and build a simple plan you can actually follow. So, if you've made it this far, you now know why your calves might not be growing, but knowing what you're doing wrong is only half the battle. Now let's put everything together into a simple blueprint you can actually use to build bigger calves. First, train them 2 to 3 times per week. You don't need to destroy them every day. Give them enough time to recover, then challenge them again. For each workout, start with a standing calf raise to target the gastrocnemius. Use a full range of motion, lower your heels under control to get a deep stretch, pause briefly, then drive all the way up and squeeze at the top. Aim for around 6 to 12 challenging reps, taking each set close to failure without sacrificing your form. Then add a seated calf raise to target the soleus. Because the soleus has a higher proportion of slow twitch fibers, you can generally work it with higher reps. Aim for around 10 to 20 controlled reps, again taking the set close to failure. And here's the part most people completely overlook: progressive overload. If you keep using the same weight, the same reps, and the same effort every week, don't expect your calves to keep growing on their own. Over time, try to add a little more weight, squeeze out an extra rep, or improve your control and range of motion. Your calves need a reason to adapt, and progressive overload gives them one. So your formula is simple. Train them consistently, challenge them hard, use a full range of motion, train both the gastrocnemius and soleus, and gradually make the workouts harder over time. Do that consistently for months, not days or weeks, and you'll finally give your calves the stimulus they've been missing. And before you think of blaming your genetics, there's one last thing you need to understand. You might be thinking, okay, but what if my calves are just bad because of genetics? And honestly, genetics do matter. They influence things like your calf muscle insertions, proportions, muscle fiber composition, and even how easily you can build muscle. That's why some people seem to have impressive calves without doing much, while others have to work much harder to see the same results. But here's what genetics don't mean. They don't mean you're stuck with the calves you have right now. You may never have the exact shape or proportions of someone else, but you can still make your calves significantly bigger and stronger than they are today. The mistake is using genetics as a reason to stop trying before you've actually given your calves the right training, enough time, and consistent effort. So yes, genetics can influence your starting point and your ultimate potential, but for most people, the bigger problem isn't bad genetics, it's bad training. And if you've been making the mistakes we've covered in this video, you may have never given your calves the right environment to grow in the first place. Now you know exactly what to do to finally grow your calves, but here's the bigger question. Do you actually understand how muscle growth works? Because once you know the truth about how muscles really grow, you'll understand how to build every muscle in your body. Watch this next.